Welcome to Scoop World. It is Wednesday. We are 2 days of practice into Youngstown State Prep Week. The pads are coming off tomorrow. A nice light practice on Thursday. Get these guys ready to get back on track, play better, focus better, do better, perform statistically better. A lot of stuff to fix. A lot of stuff for Ryan to put the foot down on the throats of these players who were underperforming and see where we can go. We have two Patsies coming up before Notre Dame. A lot of prep going to come through these next couple of weeks. I think you can kind of roll the benches and get a lot of guys in the game this weekend. So this will be a very interesting game. Obviously, it's a 1AA opponent. It's a team that is not in the same caliber as Ohio State, not even the same galaxy as Ohio State. So we'll see how we handle it, see if we take some shots, get some confidence for Kyle McCord, see if we stick to the Devin Brown plan. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, especially in the quarterback room going forward. So with that being said, we are going to, as always, be very grateful and thankful for you guys. Thank you guys for enjoying this content, clicking that like button, clicking subscribe, also clicking the little bell where you know we're going to go live. Appreciate you guys always. Comment what needs to happen in the quarterback derby going forward. Again, Devin Brown thought he was going to play half the game. He played like 6 plays. A lot of stuff that people were projecting and didn't happen. Some guys, CJ Hicks, Jaden Ballard, who are very talented, didn't play at all. I think they combined played 1 play. So a lot of questions to be answered. We'll see if there's any rotational shifts, if some guys that played more snaps play less snaps based on their production, their grades from last week. And we'll see if Ryan can get these guys cranked up. That being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great, thank you.
What you're Ryan Day, you're the head coach. What do you want to see improve? How hard do you ratchet up the intensity? What do you do this week to get these guys ready to go more so than they were last week?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is that I think it's important, and I think this was important for me even to take a step back and kind of take a little historical context on the great seasons in Ohio State's history. And, when you look at the 2002 season, when you look at the 2014 season, those seasons, and I said this on the board, but those seasons for a large part of the season were considered almost train wrecks. They were very difficult to watch from a fan's perspective, from a player's perspective, from the media's perspective, from everybody's perspective. This wasn't, some glorious dream season that started off magically and ended magically with a national championship. And frankly, if you look in the history of Ohio State, it's hard to find seasons that started out great and were great in the middle and were great in 3/4 of the way through and were great at the end. You know what I'm saying? It's just not the way that college football at Ohio State's ever been built. And so for me, as I take a step back and I look at a 20-point win at Indiana on Saturday, as bad as Indiana is, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm not trying, we always say on these podcasts, we're going to tell you guys the truth. We're going to give you the good, the bad. When people do good, we're going to say it. When coaches do good, we're going to say it. When team does good, we're going to tell you the truth. But, this was just not a historically bad performance. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't awesome. But was it worse than anything we saw in 2002? No. Was it worse than anything we saw in 2014? No. I mean, 2014 started out awful. I mean, absolutely awful. And, both ended with, dream seasons, and we all have these remarkable memories of those seasons. But man, when you go back and you look at the games, a 20-point win, those seasons would have loved to have a 20-point win on the road against anybody, because every game was down to a field goal, down to a drop pass by a Cincinnati, tight end in the end zone. So I just think that when you look at that, what am I looking for this week? What am I trying to do this Ryan Day? I think it's the old saying, we're not looking for perfection, just improvement. We just need to improve. We need to take another step with the defense. We need to take another step with the defensive line. We need to take us another step with the offensive line, with the running back. We just need to get better. And as for the quarterback position, I sincerely hope that Day gives both quarterbacks play. Now, I went back to the Wayback Machine and I pulled up Joe Bauserman's 2011 start. I think it was September 3rd against Akron, and he was 12 for 16, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran for a touchdown. And I remember being at that game and thinking, wow, we can win with this Joe Bauserman guy. This guy's not horrible. We can win. So what I'd say is, small sample sizes can lead you to dubious conclusions. So I think we just got to get as much information and data as possible about both quarterbacks, about all the running backs, about all the wide receivers, and we just got to improve because we're not going to lose this week. It's a 1AA opponent. It's Youngstown State. That's not being disrespectful to the Penguins. God bless them, love them, but they're not going to win. And it's going to be hard to really get all excited. Say, oh, wow, we won 55-0. We won 49-0. We won 63-7 or whatever it is because the team is so bad. But we can improve. We can look for solid improvement. So that's what you're asking what I'm looking for. I'm looking for improvement. And the last thing that I want to say is, in all the negative energy, we've talked about the negative energy about the quarterback derby and stuff that's going on and people being upset about this and that. The positive side of this is I am super excited to watch the game this weekend because I think we're actually going to learn something. This is not just a game that we're just going to go through the motions and it's going to be a dumb game that we wish wasn't on the schedule. And hey, let's get to Notre Dame. We're actually going to learn something. We're actually going to get some data. And I'm grateful for that because the college football season goes all too fast for me. And I hate to see him be over. And so the last thing you want is to have a game that you don't get any information from or you're not getting that real enjoyment from. I'm going to get real enjoyment from watching this weekend. And I think that's the hidden blessing in all the negativity that's been out there. I think that's the positive energy that's out there. And that's the way that I'm approaching it. And that's the way I'm looking at this week.
I agree. I think that this has to be like a batting practice type game. You got to get the O-line coming off the ball, combination blocking correctly to the right guys. Again, I think that there's a lot of, there's really good stuff going on with the O-line. I think our center and our left tackle and our right tackle were our three highest graded guys. And especially our center and right tackle. Our two guys that were our stalwarts, our 6-year guy, Matt Jones, and our preseason All-American, 3rd-year likely 3-and-out guy, first-round mock draft type guy. Those guys weren't good. So there's a lot of room to improve. There's a lot of, I think, additional things these guys can do. So I want to see these guys launch guys off the ball. I mean, I want to see these guys play with confidence, play with their hands. Again, it's nice when you're playing a 1AA team because they're not going to be as good as you. They're not going to be as big as you, as fast as you, as strong as you. I played against Youngstown State first game of my senior year, and it's an absolute cakewalk, and this is the one where you better load up that highlight reel. You should be launching these guys. These guys have never seen anything like Ohio State football, and you have to show it to them. And it'll be interesting to see, is it McCord for 90% of the snaps again? Is it Devin Brown for 70-30? What does it look like this week? Again, I think that there was a lot of meat left on the bone by our quarterback. I think that, again, you got to figure out who's the guy for Notre Dame because Kyle McCord did great, but with Marvin and Emeka just looking disinterested and disheartened most of the game, you got to figure out a way to feed those guys. I know that Marvin and Kyle have that chemistry and they played in high school, but this ain't high school. It's time to feed these guys the ball, get them the targets they need, get them the receptions they need, and just make these guys into the All-Americans that they're projected to be. I mean, Marvin wants to be a Blitnikoff winner, be a top 3 pick. So, when you have 28 yards or whatever he had, or 14 yards or whatever it was at the end of the first game, that ain't cutting it, especially against a team like Indiana as you get into the meat of the schedule. So you have a 2-week window right here where if you're Ryan Day and if you're smart, you audition a lot of guys at a lot of spots, figure out who are the right guys, get them the right seats on the right bus, get the wrong guys off the bus, and get rolling. Because again, there's guys that need to help us. And if Marvin and Emeka do not want to block ever, put Jaden Ballard in, put in X, put in whoever, David Adolph. Put one of those guys in, let him go crack some guys, let him go hit some guys. Because again, that hurts our running game tremendously. Again, I know they're phenomenal receivers, but we're trying to win football games and trying to be better in college football. We don't care about the NFL at Ohio State. We care about winning the next game and getting better and progressing to Notre Dame, to Wisconsin, to Penn State, to Michigan. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see what this rotation looks like. Do we deepen it? Do we play guys earlier? Do we play some of the younger guys? Do we play some of the freshmen earlier? Do we rotate the running backs more? Again, the running back rotation, it was okay. I thought Chip was phenomenal as a second running back. Trey was, he was good. Then you get into the deeper part. Dallin Hayden plays the last drive of the game. Do we see Evan Pryor? I assume we will this week. Nevada, rotation-wise, who are some guys you would like to see play a little bit more. A lot of guys, the usual suspects played on defense. Defense is very veteran, very senior and junior laden. Who are some guys you want to see more defensively and offensively in this game versus a much lesser opponent?
Well, I think first of all, people have to understand, like when we talk about who we think are going to play or who we see play or who we're hearing stuff about, God, we can't control the rotations once they get into the game. You know what I'm saying? So like last week, I thought Carnell Tate was going to have, I thought Carnell Tate was going to have a breakout game, and he almost kind of did. He was directed a couple times, but he got some big snaps. But it's like, hey, all we're doing is passing on to you guys what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we think, and so I think it's challenging on this because if you'd asked me before last game if Devin Brown would have played as little as he did, I would have bet anything that wasn't true because I just did not see the game going that way. I didn't see it happening that way, and so these take anything that we say here with the caveat that we can't control what the coach is doing in terms of doing it. But like for me, look, we saw Malik Hartford, but I want to see more Malik Hartford. I want to see more C.J. Hicks. I want to see more Caden Curry. I want to see more Jaden McKenzie. I want to see Evan Pryor. I want to see Dallin Hayden. I want to see Brandon Ennis. You know what I'm saying? I want to see us go a little bit deeper. I don't know why we didn't roll the second offensive line out there. I don't know why we just didn't do that. It would have seemed like a perfect time to do it. Now, again, I understand the flip side of it as, hey, we got to get these guys reps. We only have limited number of reps with these clock rules, and we got to make the most of our offensive possessions in terms of. I get that, but man, these other guys work hard, and there's nothing that's more invigorating for guys coming out of practice than getting a chance to play in the game. And, if you give guys a chance to play, then everybody's got a bigger spring in their step. Everybody's a little bit happier. Everybody's smiling a little bit more. Everybody's a little bit more energetic when they get a chance to play. And that's the beauty. Again, we're looking for where's the blessing in a game like this? Well, one of the blessing is this is a chance to play everybody. And everybody gets a chance to go out there and do their thing in front of 100,000 people. And hopefully we see some names score touchdowns that have never scored touchdowns before at Ohio State. And that'd be a big thrill. That'd be a great way to kind of get things going and just, again, start the build, continue the build. We don't need to be perfect right now. We don't need to be national championship worthy in week 2. We just need to be better. And that's what we just need to get on Saturday.
Yeah, again, I thought it was completely idiotic that the very last drive of the game, there was a minute 44 left, that we didn't put the second team O line in. I know it's 3 plays. We threw it all 3 plays, but for the love of God, let those guys get in. Let them at least act like they played. At least, you get 3 plays. I know it's such a small number, 3 plays, but it's a million times bigger than saying I was a DNP, did not participate on the score sheet. Your folks come in, girlfriend comes in, whatever, and again, those starters didn't need those last 3 plays. And again, I know it's insignificant, but it's just the rotations are weird, man. I mean, we got David Adolph out there, Jaden Ballard is standing there holding the water bottle, doing TikTok videos or whatever he's doing. And it's not the same as actually playing. So again, I don't know. Like, I think that as the season goes on, you got to get some of these guys going to see who can help you. Again, I thought that Carnell would play more. I thought that Brandon Ennis would play a little bit earlier. Marvin and Emeka, again, are, they've got a huge future in front of them in the NFL. They blocked like that. And again, I think that you should put some of these young guys in and say, hey, if you want to go make some money, go block as a freshman. I mean, Brian Hartline, when he got drafted by the Dolphins, he made his mark on special teams, running down on kickoff and splitting guys' wigs. It wasn't because he was some dynamic receiver. Nobody cared about his receiving ability, but he did the dirty work. And some of these young receivers that are tough guys, let them go do the dirty work. Let them go run down on kickoff, punt, be a gunner, do some of that stuff like Terry McLaurin used to do. But yeah, I'm excited to see how much should we rotate some of these guys in. Again, a guy that I thought was going to be a lot bigger factor in the rotation is Tylen Malone. He played 5 snaps. Tyleek played 30. Tyleek missed all of camp, out of shape, and he played more snaps than any defensive tackle. So again, and he played well. I mean, the snaps I watched him, he's a dude. He's a dominator. But, guys like Taiwan, we got to see what some of these guys can bring to the table because – you got a 2-week audition basically for the rest of the season when we hit Notre Dame and then Big Ten season. You got to see who you can count on in October, November, and just get some of these guys going. O-line wise, probably the biggest disappointment of the day was how perplexingly bad the offensive line was. I think that again, you're breaking in new guys. Obviously Josh Fryer, Josh Simmons, Carson Hinsman. The two guards were not what they were cracked up to be, and I think that it's very fixable. It's a technical thing more than just a lack of ability. It wasn't like they were getting dominated and blown up and pushed back and whatever, but again, like when you're Donnie Jackson, man, you got to be like the butt kicker up front. You got to be the bell cow, the guy that they run behind and they know that you're going to handle your three technique. And he was getting handled by an Indiana guy, which again, God bless Indiana, but that ain't Michigan, that ain't LSU, that's not Bama, that's not Georgia. It's not what you're going to see at the end of the pike. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to correct that. Again, if I was Justin Fry and Mike Salini, I'd be doing combination blocks until the sun sets from about 2 to about 9 o'clock at night every day. I don't know what they do at practice, but that's what I'd be doing because our combo blocks were bad. And I think that a big reason for that is because we had these crazy wonky rotations all training camp where Ryan Day had two different groups, two fields. Let's rotate the left tackle to third team right tackle and put the second team center at the right tackle and move the guards around. And so these guys had no chemistry, and it showed. These guys had no chemistry between the guards and the double teams, guard tackle, guard center, and that's an issue because again, people might think O-line is just like Madden, video games, whatever, but you got to really know how your guard fits a double team, so you can be good at a double team. It's a big difference. It's a massive difference. Nevada, as we get into this next game. What do you project? I mean, again, if you're obviously we can go through the shoes if you're the head coach. We get to Sunday. What's the storyline? Is it Devin Brown plays half the snaps, a third of the snaps, a quarter of the snaps? How does this team look as we get into the Sunday meetings?
Well, let me just go back to one of your earlier points. I thought it's a really, really good point, and it's something that we've talked about before, but I don't think it's gotten enough run. The fall camp. One of the big influences of the fall camp was the two field kind of move guys around, split things up type of things. And there were benefits to that. There were huge benefits in terms of getting reps and getting more chances to evaluate players at different spots than they've ever done before. And that was different. But the one area that you really heard on that was on the offensive line because you didn't have the cohesion and the moving the guys around and moving the guys up and down on the depth chart and on left and right in different positions and inside outside was really wonky, and we called it out at the time. But it's really kind of come to roost in terms on the stuff that really does require that cohesion, like you said, like on those combination blocks, like on handling twists, like on handling things that require good offensive line communication, and you know that better than anybody. That's really where we were kind of lacking. And I think that's to be expected given what they did in the fall camp. And there was a lot of good stuff that came out of that. But that was one of the areas that we'd be behind. And secondly, it was really interesting, shocking to me, frankly, that Matt Jones and Donnie Jackson were our lowest rated offensive linemen for the day. I would have never guessed that because they were both terrific during the fall. They've both been terrific players throughout their careers at Ohio State. They've played in big game after big game. They've got, countless starts between them. So that was a bit surprising. So having said all that, let me fast forward to what I think the story will be. I think the story is going to be on Sunday is that we got better. I think that the team's going to play with a different kind of energy. Obviously, being at home, having success. I think we're going to have our way with the Youngstown State team, and I think both quarterbacks are going to play well. And I think that's the good news, and it's probably part of the bad news because when both quarterbacks play well, it's going to be difficult to differentiate between the two. And sometimes when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one, and that can be a challenge. But I think that we're probably going to leave on Sunday feeling good about ourselves, but probably with some still questions about the quarterback position because I think everybody's going to do a nice job and everybody's going to look sharp on Saturday against the Penguins.
Yeah, again, I hate games like this because it's the ultimate double-edged sword because people will say, oh, well, it's just against Youngstown State. If Devin Brown throws for 300 yards or Kyle McCord throws for 300 yards, like it's just against Youngstown State. So, the sooner these games can get off the schedule, the better. But I think that, again, you got to get your playmakers involved. You got to get Emeka and Marvin to be, in the game, get them interested. Again, the body language last week was terrible from those guys, and those guys have to be your leaders. And I'm watching it, and I'm not the only guy that noticed it. There's some guys that are very high ranking at Ohio State that noticed that the poor body language was something that was an issue, and they weren't getting the ball. And they're used to CJ Stroud, who was a machine and could place the ball basically anywhere on the field on a dime, and it wasn't like that. So again, you got to get those guys active, ready, engaged. Again, and some of that comes down to Brian Hartline. Like Brian Hartline's going to say, "Hey guys, look, we got a new quarterback. We don't have CJ anymore. It's not always going to be perfect. You might have to fish the ball off your toes and do whatever like they did on the second ball of the game. But again, that doesn't help the overall image and morale of the team when your superstars aren't acting like team players. So again, I'm not trying to be critical of Marvin and Emeka. I think they're fantastic players. I'm sure they'll be top 10 picks, but you need those guys to be active, engaged, ready to roll as we head to Notre Dame, because you want to see a unified front. You want to see guys that are hungry and ferocious, and you want South Bend to be absolutely terrified of what's coming towards them. And if you just go off the body language from last week, it's not going to be like that. So I think that's important for Ryan Day. It's more important for Brian Hartline, who's now in more of a leadership role in the offense, to get these guys, hey, look, let's work with these quarterbacks. Let's get the things ironed out. Let's start throwing them the ball. And if Devin Brown's the answer, God bless him. Because again, I think Cal's a good player. Again, I like your point about the O2 in the 14 season where, frankly, we sucked for a lot of the season in 02, and we ended up winning, beating Miami Hurricanes, probably the most notable game of my lifetime as an Ohio State fan / player. And then in 14, we start off, we play Navy. They run the same triple option that Indiana does, except they shut us for 370 yards, make us look silly. And then the next week we lose to Virginia Tech, a 7-5 or whatever Virginia Tech team that wasn't very good. They whooped us at home. So again, it's not all just like this big, upward swing through the season. There's a lot of bumps and twists and turns and injuries and new guys stepping up and playing. And, that's kind of the exciting thing about college football is you genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, again, when Braxton's shoulder fell out of the socket and he was the Heisman favorite, everyone thought the season was over. We play Navy, play like trash. Everyone thought the season was over. We play versus Virginia Tech, lose at home, get massacred by the Bear defense. Everybody absolutely thought the season was over. And then we went on the most historic run in college football history, and we won the first college football playoff and won a national title. So again, folks, you have to tune in. You got to lock in. You got to be, a little bit more even keeled. I know that people like to go haywire and say how bad the team is, but a lot of the stuff is fixable. We have an incredible amount of talent. I mean, we're probably a top 2 talent team in the country, us in Georgia. I don't know how many other rosters I'd trade for what we have. So you just got to let it all play out. So Nevada, any final thoughts as we wrap this thing before I go get B. Moses?
No, just like you said, I want to see some of the little things improve. What? Like I said, the wide receiver blocking, the wide receiver setup on running plays versus passing plays. Again, little things. Let's tighten some things up. Let's get a little better this week. Let's be sharp and have a good week. And I hate even to speak this, but I'll speak it into existence. Let's also go through the game and have no injuries, because that's the worst thing that could possibly happen in a game like this. And I don't want to jinx it, but if I talk about it, it won't happen. So no injuries, and let's get through to Sunday and improve and get ready for Western Kentucky, who's going to be a different kind of challenge. I'm telling you, different kind of challenge than Youngstown State. WKU is not bad. And
they can chuck it 70 times a game.
They can chuck it. Yes,
so,
they can.
That'll be interesting. Well, we're going to wrap this thing, guys. We'll be back in about 5 minutes with Brandon Moses. We're going to do the big doubleheader tonight, so you guys stay put. We're going to lock this one down. Appreciate you guys, as always, joining us, being a part of the show. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. And I want to know, what do you want to see out of Ohio State this weekend? Do you want to see more Devin Brown? Do you want to see more Dallin Hayden? Put it in your comments down below. And also, shout out where you guys are watching from. We appreciate you guys so much. Be back in about 5-10 minutes with Brandon Moses. As always, you keep it right here, BuckeyeScoop.com. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.